Hi, and welcome to our Microsoft Ignite 2019 Day 3 recap. I am Amy Arwoodmark.
And I'm Johan Arwoodmark.
Awesome. Johan, where are we?
We are in our little studio that we built and, doing these things.
Yep, recording from home basically is what we're getting at. So if you are one of the virtual attendees, we're virtually attending with you. So you already know there have been some struggles with the stream this week. Good news is that, again, there was troubles with the stream yesterday with things being delayed. So sometimes when a session would go live, you wouldn't actually see the stream for that session until 20 minutes into the talk.
Yeah.
So I saw some frustration, but just so you know, I think basically all the talks from yesterday are online now.
At least the one I wanted to see was there.
Yeah. There's so many that are already online anyway. So you're not that far behind if you were running into stream issues. Obviously, the ideal thing is to be at Ignite, but as you know, and I know, a lot of us we all have lives, but sometimes responsibilities or lack of work approvals prohibit you from going to the conference. So it is so great that Microsoft does it this way so that we can
catch up.
We can bring you the news as it's happening or shortly after it happens, and everyone's happy. So let's dive right into things.
Yes. So I was spending a good time on watching a session by Suma and Steve regarding Windows update changes or update changes in general. Mm-hmm. And just as a fun fact, they introduced the session by telling us that there have been some 28 billion updates pushed out since 2015. And
holy cow.
On an average Patch Tuesday type of deployment, they are pushing out 17 terabytes per second through their CDN. So I could basically download all my VMs in a second, just poof, done. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
And the main theme was that, updates and feature updates, surprisingly enough, users don't like when it take too long time to do them. They don't
what?
Like,
You're kidding.
No, it's truth. I've seen it. And so a lot of the work they're doing right now is to remove that or reduce that user disruption, basically. Mm-hmm. So for a start, in 8.09, as you know, there are now 3 reboots when you do a feature update. Mm-hmm. In 1903, it's 2 reboots. Mm-hmm. And in the upcoming, whatever you're going to call it, they call it 20H1, but it's really like 2003.
Yeah.
So the spring 23 update, only 1 reboot. And they're also adding in controls so that you can do everything but the reboot. There is a skip finalize switch for setup you can apply. So
awesome.
Yes. So It does everything then, and then you can just push out the finalize one. And then it does the final tweak.
Yeah.
It's super fast. Also for regular updates, or after a feature update, when you log in for the first time, you're greeted by this little animation. It's just going to take a little bit longer and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think we all know that.
Yeah. Through automatic logon or automatic restart sign-on, you can actually reboot the machine during the night. When you come in the morning, that part has already gone through. So all the application registrations are already done.
So is the user logged in at that point or not?
The screen is locked.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
It requires some hardware support. You need BitLocker, TPM2, and a few other things. But going forward, that's...
It sounds awesome, but I can, my soul can sense all of the security admins cringing. So we'll see how this goes. And
yeah. I'm not sure it's actually being logged on.
Yeah.
I think it's a trick they do, but
no,
I'm
it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
I just feel that there will be some resistance.
Yeah. It sounds scary. It's
yes, it does.
I hope they nail this one. But that's also for 20H1,
the
release. Another thing that is added in that release is that, setup diag, the little tool to parse log files. It's built into setup now.
Okay.
So that would be cool to be able to debug things more quickly. They also added in integration with Config Manager, or not yet, but it's coming. It's coming.
And what are we calling Config Manager these days?
Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager.
Yay!
Yes. 2 points for Johan. Awesome. Another thing is that right now, of course, you can do rollbacks if things go wrong. Mm-hmm. You can also do rollbacks from Intune and rollbacks through dism commands. Mm-hmm. And they added in...
Stop. The rollback. My favorite part about that session was Suma saying that one of the most weird comments that she got was that the rollback is the best feature.
Yeah.
Do you know who said that? Mike Terrell.
Awesome. Hey, Mike. Good
Mike
call.
is the one who was in a meeting with Suma who said that. And I agree. It actually is a really great feature option.
Something bad, you have an application not
for
working.
Sure.
Yeah.
In enterprises, that's scary. There's always a user who's unhappy, who says something went wrong.
Yeah.
They usually have a ton of cat pictures. Like, I feel like cat pictures and failures go hand in hand.
Yeah. So anyway, in 1903 in Windows 10, they added in the reserved storage so that Windows always will have space to actually do an update. There is an integration piece of that coming to Config Manager as well. So yay for Config Manager. And they added in, well, not yet, but in 20H1, there will be a cloud recovery.
Okay.
So you can actually reset the machine and get the bits from Windows Update.
Nice.
Instead of needed to have everything on the local machine. So that's cool. Yeah.
Okay.
What was that?
So we'll have the link for that session and all the sessions we talk about in the video description.
Yes.
On YouTube. We'll also put it in our blog post as well. So either way, you have access to view what it is that we're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Then I know you looked at some things as well.
Yeah, I did.
Related to...
So I actually am not reporting about anything Config Manager today.
What?
I know. I know. I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone. Today is an Intune and PowerShell day. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about was WFB. And I don't really want to call it Cloud Edition because you've always, well, not always, you have for the most part for a while been able to manage how WFB behaves.
The policies,
from Intune. And if this is your first time hearing about WFB, it's a set of policies that are basically client side. You can set these by group policy if you're using legacy Active Directory, but you can also set these in Intune. And at first it was just hey, turn it on. Hey, what update channel do I want to be on? Hey, here's an update ring. Just really simple things. But Microsoft has added a ton of granular control now. And they've also added an API on top of it and PowerShell support.
Nice.
Yeah. So the PowerShell module that you use isn't available yet. I tried to install it.
It's coming?
It is coming. Just like everything else with Ignite, when you see the new shiny things, some of it might be in private preview, some of it is starting to be in public preview, or maybe they still have a little bit of work to do when they get back home. So then you can expect to start to see those things like midwinter or early in the spring. But generally, you can get some sort of preview one way or another. So the first thing that I want to show, I will jump over to the PowerShell module. So if you look at eyes, which is the best way to really see the module, since I couldn't install it, I paused the video and typed every commandlet that you get with this module. So this is how much I love you guys. So the module name is actually just WFB Cloud, but it isn't available yet. And here's all of the things that you can do with it. So you can add a WFB policy assignment. You can get a policy. You can remove a policy. You can set a policy, suspend a policy. Basically all these things that you'd be able to do through a GUI if you're super hardcore PowerShell person.
Can I ask you to zoom in just a little bit on that?
Yeah, sure. I shall zoom.
Thank you.
Thanks for the help. Yeah, so here we go, and I can also drop this down as well.
How about that?
So this is how much Johan loves you guys, making me step outside of my comfort zone and zoom. So again, I shall start over. This is the module name. This is what you get when you're actually able to install it. It's going to be super shiny, but you can also do this stuff through Intune because there are companies that mean well but don't allow PowerShell in any form. I worked for a company like that once. I didn't work there very long. No. It was very frustrating.
Yeah. Automation is kind of nice to have.
Anyway, so as I was talking about, for a while, you've been able to create deployment rings and basically use WFB, configure WFB via Intune. But there's so much more granular options now. Not new is that you can set the channel. Something that is relatively new, as in it hasn't always been there since you've been able to do the update rings, is your insider build, what ring you want to be on. Just wanted to highlight that in case this is kind of the first time you're getting this set up. You don't have to just use the semi-annual channel and targeted. You can also automatically test the insider rings as well.
Yep.
And then do they go out to Microsoft Update or not? I mean, you'd kind of want them to go out to Microsoft Update, wouldn't you? Do you also want to allow drivers? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, if these are if these machines that I'm running this on aren't Surface devices, I don't really see a reason to really allow them to go out to Microsoft Update and start downloading driver updates. Anyway, you can set your deferral days. So this is in days, not months. And also a rollback period. So in this organization, we're only allowing 10 days for rollback. You can set your active hours, check for restarts, whether or not you want the end user to be able to pause the update. So yeah, I think it's pretty important to allow my CEO to maybe pause an update if he's in the middle of something. I am certainly of the belief that nobody is too important for updates. So I might start nagging after a while, but I'm going to put specialized users into a ring like this if I don't want them to have default behaviors that I have in other rings, so that I can be a little bit more lenient. But there will come a point where, hey buddy, sorry, you've already reached the deadline.
Twice.
Yeah, exactly. So now you do have to update, and there are ways to handle that. You can certainly track that through your update compliance reports that you can get in Intune as well. So you can stay on top of these things. Then you would just simply save the update ring that you created, and then you deploy it to an Azure AD device group. The important thing to know is if you're doing things in Intune, you are deploying these. I can just click next and show you what it looks like. So as you assign it, you can do the default all users, all devices, or all devices and all users, or you can select your own groups. So I have a bunch of random groups that I've created through the years that I've had this tenant. So obviously I can get very granular for these rings that I create. But it's kind of like test sequences. You don't want a million test sequences just for a bunch of different scenarios. So be thoughtful if you're going to do it super granular. You might just be creating too much work and have too many rings that you have to track.
So less is more?
Less is more, yeah, I think so. Until otherwise noted, yeah. Less is more.
Yep.
But again, I think that the most shiniest thing about this is that there's going to be PowerShell support.
Very shiny.
Yeah.
So on that note, anything you would like to add about PowerShell?
Yeah, actually, it's funny that you say that. I also watched a PowerShell session.
It's almost like we prepared this.
It's almost like we prepared it. This is big for the Arwood Marks to come into a talk and have it prepared.
Have a script.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. And I think this is the first time, this week is the first time that I've ever seen you do any kind of talk and not have something to demo. I've been driving demos when they're applicable.
I'll try to shape up for tomorrow. How about that?
Okay, sounds good. Speaking of tomorrow, we're going to have some pretty shiny announcements tomorrow, aren't we?
Tomorrow is going to be some very
you do not want to miss tomorrow. Okay, anyway, back to things. So I watched I think you could call it like an unplugged session. It was in the community hug.
Yeah.
Hug.
Hub?
Well, you can get hugs in the community, I'm sure, but if you don't want one, you don't have to get one. The community hub.
Yeah.
On that stage. So they were interviewing someone from the PowerShell team.
Mm-hmm.
But to kind of give some context to why this talk is so important, it's just a quick, maybe 15-minute video about PowerShell 7 and what's new. But I remember the panic started a little bit before the config manager's dead going away panic started, that PowerShell was dead. And I remember people asking, hey, I didn't learn PowerShell yet. And I heard that it's dead. Like, is it even worth my time to learn?
Like what?
Are you kidding me? Obviously, I've heard it too, and it's made me feel really uncomfortable. You should absolutely take the time to learn PowerShell.
It's not going away.
Yeah, you may not become a PowerShell superhero, and that's okay. One of the things that I'm learning, because I don't really have a lot of talent in coding and coming up with shiny things, but I am very good at reading what is there and seeing, is this correct? Does this actually work? Or at least having a working understanding of what a script is actually doing. So there's a lot of different adventure options that you have in your PowerShell journey, but PowerShell is not dead. And they didn't say PowerShell is not dead, but that's basically the undertone of this quick session. So PowerShell 7 is in public preview, so you can go and get it now if you want. Some shiny things about it is that there was a little bit of module compatibility issue in PowerShell 6. So I think that's where people were like super disappointed, being like, look, see, PowerShell is dying. What works is what works, and it'll never be improved. Not true. It's just living differently now. So they believe that they now have an 85% compatibility with past modules. So scripts that didn't work in PowerShell 6 should work in 7, but if it doesn't, there's actually a special flag that you can use that runs a different PowerShell instance behind and then serializes that command and then sends it back to your PowerShell 7 window.
That's cool.
Yeah, but if you still run across something that doesn't work, you can file a bug on GitHub. It takes about 24 hours to triage that bug. They have metrics on that. However, how fast it gets patched is based on two different things. Is this something that's broken, or is this a feature request? So something that's broken gets fixed within the next monthly update of PowerShell 7. And if it's a feature request, I mean, like any other product, if it's a feature request, it really depends, because there's also a lot of red tape that's behind features, because it has to be tested. It has to be documented, tested again, documented again. So that could take months of internal testing / argument / resource application.
Regular development stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But again, because they're willing to talk about you can submit a feature request, PowerShell is not dead. It's not going away.
Yeah.
And just the final closing thing that I wanted to add to this is that PowerShell 7 is on long-term servicing. So it will be supported for 3 years along with .NET Core 3.1. So
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. That's all for PowerShell?
That's all for PowerShell.
I spent, I was in the weirdest and best session I've seen in quite a while. It was an OS internal session. So think like the old Windows NT internals books that you may have still in your shelf somewhere hiding. Flick books, a lot of. So it was a session around GPUs, how they worked, memory management, a lot of time being spent on file system, but from like a super core internals point of view. So it was a session by, let's see, Mathew and Arun, two Microsofties. It was super deep dive. It's like Mark Rusanovich on steroids type deep dive. It's like,
oh, that sounds shiny. I'll definitely have to catch that replay.
Yeah. So watch that session. I highly recommend it. And then I watched the update session again in the community hub. With what's his name, Joey Snow, interviewing Ben Armstrong. No. Joey did the Subone interview. It was the German fellow, Mr. Maurer.
Yeah,
He did the interview with Ben Armstrong.
Okay.
Anyhow, they recently announced that they have now the biggest VMs in the world, basically. The MV2 VMs, where you can chime in 12 terabytes of RAM and 416 CPUs in it. Obviously, that's not intended for like a yearly operation, because these are pretty expensive. But it's more like, all right, you have your workload for 95% of the year, and then your retail chain around Christmas and around Black Friday, it sort of spikes a little bit.
Hold on a minute. I'm going to call Andreas and ask him if I can get that. Just kidding.
Of course you can. You're worth it. 2 of them, please. So anyhow, that's how you can basically take what you have, shut it down, resize it, and spin up that super VM, run it for 2 weeks, and then turn it down again, just to cover the load. And that's really the usage of these types of VMs, unless you're doing like weather reports or simulations or whatnot. Other things was the fairly new graphic capabilities coming into the NV V4 VMs, where you can do graphic partitioning, not just sharing the video memory, but actually each VM thinks it has its own graphics card physically and sees it as a graphics card, but it's a single card. So this is for like VDI machines, typically not playing games, even though I can certainly see the usage for that one.
Yeah.
But like architecture, CAD, and stuff like that.
Cool.
Ben also mentioned that he was in a weird sort of, I shouldn't say state, but he was invited to VMware to speak in the VMware world. And the audience was apparently a little bit confused when they announced that, all right, we have Ben Armstrong here from Microsoft coming up on stage. And like, okay. But they've been working with VMware on running VMware Workstation on top of Hyper-V on the Windows Sandbox.
That's pretty shiny.
That is like nesting, but different.
Use case for that.
Yeah,
I
that's
think.
cool. They also announced NVMe Direct. So basically a development of the capability. As we can have a VM right now where you can have an NVMe disk funnel through like a discrete type connection to it, but with NVMe Direct you get a near native performance. So now you can order a VM in Azure with 3.6 million IOPS. So that's pretty cool, I thought, at least. Other recent changes or things in Hyper-V that was talked about in that interview was all the things they're doing on the client. Like Windows Defender Application Guard, which is actually using virtualization. So if you have Edge, I think it came in 1903, don't hold me to it, but around that time frame. So you open Edge and you have enabled that feature. And when you usually go like open in private mode or something, if you have a web page that you like, oh, it might be a little bit fishy, you can now say new application guard window. And then it opens up a new Edge, but it's really a virtual machine with Edge in it. And it goes so fast, it just shows up as a second window. So you think it's just a window, an end user would think. And the same goes as the newest Linux WSL2, the bash terminal thing. It also spins up in a VM super fast. So all these technologies is really cool from a Hyper-V point of view. And whew,
wow,
that's
that's a lot of stuff. The thing that I love about Ignite is that it always gets some hate, we'll say, about it's just a marketing conference, and it's not.
Not if you look for it.
There is so much technical information available to you. And there are so many people that you can come and talk to and learn about what they're doing and how they're implementing this in their organization or for their customers. It's like I said the other day, you can't beat the networking that you get at Ignite, and you can't beat the knowledge either.
I mean, sometimes you've been down in the expo area where they have all these expert booths, or whatever they call them now. This year, I forgot, where the product team members are talking. Sometimes just listening in, 15 minutes I can learn more than a day. It's
exactly,
like, so cool. But damn, we did it.
Yeah.
May I? All right.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, you do not want to miss tomorrow. It'll be our final recap. We will kind of talk about a little bit of what you may have heard throughout the week, as well as some super shiny announcements that we have as well.
Very shiny.
Yep. All right. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.